Hi everyone, Dylan Gowan here, welcoming you back to another installment of Overkill Reviews, BangerTV's weekly heavy metal review show. Don't forget to subscribe, check out our Patreon campaign, and you guys wanted us to review some more symphonic and power metal bands, so here we are talking about another one. It's cold. That's right, this week we're talking about the annoyingly catchy Sonata Arctica with their new 10th studio album titled Talviyö, which is out today on Nuclear Blast. And my apologies if I butcher the album title. It's in Finnish and it means Winter's Night. Sonata Arctica formed in 1996 in Kemi, Finland, and have achieved a lot of success since then. Gold records for Silence, Winterheart's Guild, and Unia, making them one of the most influential bands within power metal. The band as of late has started to experiment a lot more with progressive elements and mixing them with their kind of symphonic power metal roots. Especially on newer releases like Pariah's Child and The Ninth Hour, you get to see some more odd time signatures thrown in and a very Dream Theater meets Symphony X kind of style moments thrown into a lot of their songs. But I must say, the press release that we received from Sonata Arctica is pretty hilarious. When you say that your vocalist is a musical genius from the very get-go, that's a very, very bold statement, and you kind of don't get to decide that. One thing I will give Sonata Arctica credit for is that they know how to write really clever and memorable vocal melodies, riffs, and have really tasteful solos. The opening track, Message from the Sun, is a great example of this, while including a nice acoustic break and really tasteful solos, and that kind of theme is carried over into Whirlwind, which is the second song. When I'm listening to the first two songs, they're good, but they don't have this kind of catchiness that I've normally hear with a lot of Sonata Arctica's discography. It's pretty much run-of-the-mill, very safe power metal. There's one part, especially in Message from the Sun, where you have this very chugging, very heavy riff, and it feels like the sounds that they used for the guitars don't make it as powerful as it should. Personally, I think that Whirlwind would suit the album better if it was the first song because it has way more intensity. It's got more clever hooks involved with a lot of the guitar melodies that are played throughout the track. And it's got a very, very nice outro. So I think that if you maybe swapped them or put Message from the Sun third, then I think the album would have flowed better in my opinion. The third track, Storm the Armada, is pretty promising. It has a really nice intro and the arpeggiated parts are very well executed, but the keyboards kind of overshadow the guitars in a lot of the sections of the song. And it's not very experimentative as it was basically presented on the press release. It kind of feels like I was oversold a little bit on the idea that this band was really going to experiment more with a lot of their sound. But what I found is that those three songs, while decent, are repetitive. Their only instrumental track on the album, Ismo Got Good Reactors. That's one hell of a title. I mean, the neoclassical kind of style guitar instrumental has been kind of a trope among a lot of power metal bands, and I mean, the song's catchy enough. It's a nice break, and I think this is one of the more stronger songs on the record. It really kind of shows a lot of the musicianship of the guys within the band, but in a weird way, I did want to hear Tony's vocals on it, because I think that it would make already a good track sound even better. There's two main things I have that's a problem with this album, and that can be a problem for pretty much any album that you're not fully invested in, and that has to be the mixing of the album and the songwriting. The mixing overall is okay. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just, it's mediocre. Mikko Tegelman, he's proven to himself and to Sonata Arctica that he is a capable engineer. I just don't think that this is his best work. And that's the same with Sonata Arctica's songwriting. It just feels that a lot of the moments where you should have the guitars really big and epic, they're kind of really thin sounding, and it really gets buried in the mix a lot when the keyboards are just so loud that it kind of just takes you out of the song. Tommy did a good job on this album when it comes to the drumming with what he was given. But it just feels like there's awkward transitions of fills that are thrown into the songs. The songwriting's not terrible, it's just a little too repetitive and predictable. It feels like they stuck to a formula and didn't really break from it. Demon Cage and The Raven Still Flies With You are a perfect example of this, how they have really good ideas but then are followed up with just very kind of awkward transitions that, in my opinion, don't really work. Throwing in a cool sound or an interesting kind of keyboard sample isn't really my idea of experimentation. I wanted them to experiment more. I wanted them to kind of, back up the statements that they made in the press release. If you want to make a safe album, that's totally fine. Sabaton was a safe album in terms of its song structure, but they came up with very musically interesting ideas that make me more invested into the song. Perhaps everything that I've been critical on this review will transition much, much better live since the guitar has to be super prominent in the mix. The reason why I'm being a little bit harsher than usual on a band like Sonata Arctica is because I love the band. I think they are a very solid power/symphonic metal band. But to me, it just feels like they didn't do their best on this album. If I had to recommend an album to people who are new to Sonata Arctica, check out Reckoning Night and Silence. Those two highlight the band at their best, but if you're even wanted to check out even their last release, The Ninth Hour, I still think that's a better representation than this release. I hate to be critical, I hate to be, negative in a review. I know normally when I'm reviewing albums, I like to be invested into a record because as a musician, there's so much effort that's put in, there's so much work, there's so much preparation, rehearsal, timing, everything. But for just this release, it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. So that's why I'm gonna give this record 2.5 out of 5 skulls. All right, time for some quick shoutouts. There's 2 albums that came out today that are on Prophecy Records, which I think have some of the more interesting bands that they've kind of signed recently. For example, there's one new album by a band called KO. Called Blasphemy, out on Prophecy. And then there's also a really cool progressive metal band that adds a little bit of a melodic death metal influence called Disillusion with their new album, The Liberation. So, what did you think of Sonata Arctica's new album? Did you like it? Do you think my opinions suck on this album as much as their songwriting? I don't know, we'll see.